Fantastic. Right. So thank you, ladies, so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. I'm going to get straight in because there's quite a lot to go through. One of the reasons that I wanted to do this PR masterclass, actually, is there one more person who's supposed to be coming in? Let me just check. Sorry, give me a second. There's one lady who was waiting to jump in. I'm just going to, so she doesn't miss it. Right, we're in. Right, okay. So Evgenia should be joining us any minute. Right, so I just wanted to welcome you all and say thank you. I'm really glad that you've all chosen to join me or allowed me to participate in the next stage of your journey with regards to your business growth and your brand growth. And if you're here, it's because you're an incredibly talented human with a proven methodology or framework or just skill or talent for how you work, how you get results for your clients, or in the production of what it is that you do. Because we do have a lady here, Hurricane, who is a musician. I mean, you also, what else do you do, Hurricane?
I actually coach as well.
You coach as well, yes. So you will have a proven methodology and something that means that you get results, but you're also an entertainer. So we'll obviously be trying to tailor some of what we talk about to that. The purpose of this class is to share high-level information on how you can leverage PR and publicity to elevate your own brand profile and position yourself as the go-to expert for what you do, both within the media and also with your audience, because there are slight differences there in how you do that with both sets of people. I won't bother with saying much about myself, other than I've been in the PR sphere for the past 10 years. I started out in a top London-based agency that had the likes of Meghan Markle, Sir Bob Geldof, and Sir Richard Branson there. So I've always kind of, ever since I was introduced to PR, it was all about sort of celebrity. And so when I went into PR to set up my own agency, what I wanted to do was turn ordinary people doing amazing things into celebrity. So in essence, one of the things that I stand by is if people can become famous for spending, several weeks in a house with people or falling in love in an island, why can they not become famous for making the difference that they're already making in the world? And that's where I come from with this. And that's why I wanted to put this class together. My favorite type of PR is personal brand PR, simply because people are more interesting than anything. Hey, Evgenia, thank you for joining. I find people are most interesting. The human interest element of a story is always the most interesting. It's always the thing that's going to get the media interested. It's always going to be the thing that's going to get your clients excited. I mean, we all know that people buy people, right? So while it's great that we can have business brands, and you all do have business brands, the area I tend to focus on with my clients is personal brand PR, in order to make sure that they themselves, they can monetize their personal brand, and also their brand. One of the reasons I'm really passionate about personal brand is because your brand does the work for you in the absence of yourself. So you don't have to be online selling, you don't have to be online, you don't have to be showing up all of the time if your brand is so galvanized that it can actually do the work for you. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about everybody turning themselves into a personal brand. I've secured PR in the past for people such as in media such as the BBC, Forbes, Harper's Bazaar, Daily Mail. These opportunities for my clients have led to expert TV appearances, viral press coverage, some of which I'll talk about today, even TEDx invites, and reality TV opportunities. And I also help clients with securing brand collaborations as well. So what next slide up is why this masterclass. So this masterclass, those of you who know me know that I'm not the biggest fan of DIY PR. Oh, hey, Leanne, go ahead. Leanne? I can't hear you, Leanne.
I can't see the slides.
Oh no.
Does anybody have slides? Yeah, I don't think you have slides up, so maybe check that.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Okay, now I see it.
Oh, right, okay. This is really annoying. Sorry about this. I'm trying to do the... Is anyone a bit of a PowerPoint? Because I need my notes, and for some reason I can't see the notes while I put the slides up like this. It's very annoying. 1 second.
Maybe open them in another window and have it like position it.
Yeah, that's what I thought I'd done. It's really annoying. So what can you see now?
The slide
You
and
can
the browser on top.
Right, but you can see the full slides.
I think so.
Everyone? Can everyone see the slides now?
Yeah, basically the browser, the gray part of the browser is a little bit low.
Okay.
Like it's not to the top of the screen. That's why I'm not sure if something at the bottom might be hidden.
Oh, okay. Right. Is that better? Is that better?
Not much change really. Is it like to the top of the window at your end?
Yeah, it is actually. This is really good.
So
sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Never mind. I think it should be all of it.
Right. Can you see why this masterclass?
Yeah. That's definitely we see most of it.
Oh, this is really strange because I've got the whole window open. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No, it's only if you have something at the very bottom, just ask us if we see it.
Okay, all right then. Okay.
Otherwise, we see most of it for sure.
Right, okay. Sorry about this, ladies. It's been proving a bit of a nightmare. Okay, so why this masterclass? Right, so anyone who knows me and has been following me for a while know that I am not a big fan of DIY PR past a certain stage of business. And so this masterclass isn't so much about telling you how to do your own PR, although obviously I will be giving you tips to do that and how to pitch and stuff, but it's more about understanding the next steps for you to take in your journey to actually building your brand as a personal brand and leveraging PR to do that. The main reason I wanted to put this class together was because I'm personally fed up of seeing DIY programs that are focused on helping people get bits and pieces of coverage and logos. It's all logo based with no real strategy around how to leverage the coverage to increase your brand equity. I'll talk a bit about that later, which in essence is brand equity gives your personal brand a premium, which allows it to sell and have more interest basically in it, right? So most PR tends to be focused on, right, get this piece of coverage and, and you can get this logo and then you can put it on your website and then all of your Facebook friends can get really excited about seeing you in this, article, and maybe they may buy something from you and that will increase sales that way. When actually the whole PR is always has been and is meant to be a long game. So it's an ongoing thing. And if you've been watching my feed recently, you'll see that I put something out about Camilla, the Queen Consort, and how when you look at an organization like the royal family and how they see PR versus how most people see PR as it being quite a short-term thing, you'll see the difference, because there was PR ever since Princess Diana sadly passed away and Prince Charles did get back with Camilla. We saw that there was a lot of work being done by the royal PR team in order to gain acceptance of Camilla, first of all as his partner, then as his wife, and now as queen. And as you can see, there wasn't a massive, despite the fact we all really love Diana, I'm just making a generalization there. You've seen that Camilla has her role has smoothly rolled out as Queen Consort, despite the fact that there was a lot of PR against her for everything that did happen with Diana. So that, I just want you guys to see that as an example of how powerful PR can be and how in the longer term, you really want to be looking at, you don't want to be looking at what's going on in the next 3 months, 6 months. You want to be looking at where is your brand going in the next sort of 3 years, 5 years, and then you want to align yourself with opportunities that are going to build upon that in the longer term. So most people don't tend to think like that. Most PR agencies don't tend to talk to their clients about the longer term vision around their PR, but that's what I want you to bear in mind today. So I want you to be thinking about building a legacy, basically working towards building your legacy. I believe that any strategic PR campaign for an established expert working towards long-term goals personally should be outsourced. So start off, by all means, start out doing your own PR, but the minute you get to a place where it's taking more time out of the day than it needs to, I really do think you should outsource it, whether that's to an assistant or whether it's actually to an agent. It doesn't matter whether you're hiring an agency to do it or whether you've got an assistant doing it, but somebody else should be doing your outreach. It shouldn't be you. Right. What was the next thing I wanted to say? Yeah, and so when I was talking about brand equity, I was saying occasionally you'll get someone on your feed who will get some PR somewhere and you'll be like, oh, I wonder how they managed to get that. And then you'll go and read the article and you'll be like, oh, yeah, it's not that great. Or, oh, they've only, they've said they're featured here, but they've only got this small line in it. It's not really that big a deal. And then you're not so impressed by it anymore. And to me, that's the kind of PR that you want to avoid. Like, it's all fine and dandy it all helps with SEO and stuff, but you don't want to be really putting a lot of effort behind PR that doesn't actually move the needle and that doesn't really add to your brand equity. So there tend to be opportunities that you can go for where you can talk about a different aspect of your life or who you are as a person. And as long as it's in alignment with something that you believe in and you feel really strongly about, I would advise go for it. But if it's something that has nothing to do with what it is that you're doing, like I lost several stone or something like that, that doesn't really do anything for you, then I would say avoid those like the plague, because when you're looking back retrospectively over your PR in the next few years, it's going to be a bit like, and your brand has grown and you've made more money and you've become a bigger entity. Is that the kind of PR that you're going to look back at and think, oh, I'm really proud of that? So next thing, is everyone okay? Yeah. Okay. Right. So with regards to doing your own PR, I wanted to say, just as you wouldn't go from struggling with sales to strategizing your own sales, sales activity, I would say that you don't do the same thing with PR. So if you don't know anything about PR, then I wouldn't just launch yourself into doing your own PR. I would actually, whether it's just having a conversation with somebody around a strategy so that you can get some fresh eyes looking in at what it is that you're doing and your brand and everything, rather than actually trying to do it yourself. Because as very much as with coaching, we can't see our own blind spots, and most people can't actually see what is amazing about them when it comes to putting themselves out in the media. And then they'll go for anything that kind of comes up. And I don't want you guys to be that kind of person. And for any of the mums who are in the room, I thought of a great analogy for it. Like, anyone who is a mum knows that if you've ever planned a birth, it never goes to plan in any way, shape or form, right? You plan that this will happen and that will happen, that will take place. And no matter what you plan, there will always be something else there will always be something that comes up that means that it doesn't go to plan. And we're not experts, right? We're not experts. We may have had 1 or 2 or 3 children or whatever, but we are not experts at that. And whereas the consultant who's with you, or the gynecologist who's with you, or whoever, has done this multiple times, so they will know what's going on. They will know when to intervene, they'll know what to look out for and all the rest of it, whereas we won't know that. And that's one of the main reasons that I wouldn't say against DIY PR, but against DIY PR up to a point. Again, it's around things like crisis management. That is something that most people never, ever, ever, ever look into. And there are some perfect examples of people who have had crises in the online space that have done an appalling job of coming back and apologizing or rectifying whatever it is that took place in there. And that's the other reason, because you never know when you're going to go viral. You never know when something that you've put out there is actually going to take off and go stratospheric. And if that happens without you being ready for that, or without actually having the support to deal with that, it could have a really negative effect on what it is that you're trying to do. So that's the other reason that I say, if possible, as soon as possible, try and get some help with doing your PR after a certain point, especially if the plan is to go big, right, and go global, right? So, right. So a few reasons around doing that. PR is time intensive. If you're an expert, I say that you should be busy with your clients, refining your process, scaling, not necessarily researching journalists and chasing your own interviews. PR, as I've spoken about, is as much about preparation as it is about the activity. And we're not just talking about operationally what it is that you need to have ready in the background in order to put yourself forward for opportunities. You've also got to get right mentally and emotionally, because it's quite likely that at some point you're going to hit a point where somebody is going to troll you or have something negative to say about what it is that you've put out there, and it just happens. It's just a fact of life. So if you're going to put yourself out in the public eye in that way, I believe that people need to be aware of what to expect. And I've worked with clients in the past who have been trolled online. I've had somebody called fat. I've had somebody called, I was working with a dating coach, and then there was a group, a 70,000 strong dating group that all went and attacked her article and, called it all sorts of names. And it's quite difficult, and you never know when it's going to come up, and it can be quite difficult to deal with. So it's about making sure that you're really settled, and your central nervous system is like really settled within yourself in order to be able to deal with this extra attention, because it's not like the online space. To me, the online space is like the kiddie pool, right? It's like the shallow end of the pool. It's when you get into the real media, that's like when the deep stuff really happens, because in the social media space, you can actually control what comes in. You can block people, you can delete them, you can delete the comments, you can do all of that. That doesn't work. Once something goes live in a major newspaper or goes live on TV, you have no control whatsoever as to what comes back to you on that. And that's one of the reasons why I say, you want to make sure that you're emotionally and mentally ready for that. Positioning is another reason why it's a good idea to have somebody helping you out with it. It makes you, if you're at a certain level, journalists will expect somebody else to be contacting them on your behalf. They will expect someone else to be organizing your interviews for you. They will expect to have a liaison with a third party. And just from a positioning point of view, depending on where it is that you want to position yourself, if you want to position yourself as high end or luxe or whatever, people aren't necessarily expecting you to take those actions that would ideally be outsourced to somebody else, because they're going to question, what is it that you're doing with your, what is it you're doing with your day if you've got all this time to be chasing us up for interviews and all the rest of it. You'd never expect Richard Branson to be responding personally to every request to come to Necker Island. So kind of start to believe your own hype a little bit in that one. As I mentioned already, crisis management. Like I said, I don't know anyone who's done a DIY PR course who would be in a position to rectify a PR disaster if it hit. And even those who have had PR, and I've seen, have gone adrift when stuff has hit the fan. From people like Marie Forleo, she had something go awry. I think it was during Black Lives Matters potentially. Danielle Laporte, Jenna Kutcher, Jay Shetty, and most recently we've obviously got Melanie Ann Lair that had an issue that that didn't make it to the mainstream, but it did cause quite a ruckus on the back end in the online space. And that none of these people, I obviously followed them, none of these people actually gave an apology or dealt with the crisis in a way that a PR agency would have said, this is what you should do in order to circumnavigate it. So that's another thing to note. Right, so that's that. So that's the reasons behind the masterclass. My next slide is, what is PR? And I know that this probably seems like a really, really basic slide to put out, but I think that PR actually has the worst PR. It does, because most people don't actually understand what the purpose of PR is. Most people mistake PR for media relations. And what I mean by that is you TV, radio, getting yourself in a newspaper. And most people think that is the sum of PR. PR, the actual definition, which took ages to come about by the Public Relations Society of America, is PR is strategic communication, a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. And I've added a little bit to say via media to maintain or cultivate a public image and or respond to public discourse. So it sounds a bit like word soup there, but in essence, the first keyword there is strategic. PR should be strategic. You should always be looking at what is the end goal of what you're trying to achieve before you think about putting yourself out there in any way. A lot of PR that is being done isn't strategic. It's more about, or the strategy is very low level. The strategy is about getting as many logos as possible onto your logo wall on your website. And that's not going to help anybody. All it does is impress the people, the few people that you see on Facebook, or the person that turns up on your website and says, oh, wow, they've turned up there. And then if they click it and then they go and look at the article and it's not a great article and it's not, or there's been times where people have used logos and I've gone looking for this person with the, with the name of the publication they've said they're in, and it's not there, so, and then I'm a bit dubious as to whether they're actually telling the truth about whether they got that coverage or not. So you want to be making sure that you are strategic in your efforts around PR, and communication is all communication. So every single thing that you do is your PR. Absolutely everything that you do, the way you show up, the way you dress, the way you talk, the words you use, the words you don't use, everything is your PR. And again, a lot of people forget that. So on the one hand, they will put themselves out in one way on social media, or they'll have branding photos that look a certain way, but then when they turn up, to do a live stream or whatever, they're completely different. And as much as a lot of people will say, oh, I'm just turning up and I'm just being real and I'm just being me, that's great. But there's actually a bit of a disconnect there in terms of branding, like visual feedback that you get from someone. If when someone turns up on a camera, they don't look like the same person that's in the photos, it kind of breaks trust a little bit. And I'm sure you guys all know what I'm talking about here. I have to say that everyone that is in this room today actually does very much look like they do in their profile photos and on there. So you're obviously ahead of the game there. But I see it quite a lot, and I'm always surprised that people can be selling one thing and showing up looking a completely different way. So the next part to look at is mutually beneficial relationships. Now, this is where PR comes into its own against marketing, because in essence, marketing isn't about your client. Marketing is about you getting what you want. Right? It's about you getting them to take an action and hopefully buy from you or convert in whatever way it is that you want them to. Whereas PR is about building the relationships. And any relationship that is built, it's built over, we would all know it's built over time. I always like to liken these things to dating. You don't get with someone straight away and then ask them to marry you or expect them to ask you to marry you. No, you expect that there's going to be. And then when we're talking about things like return on investment, which obviously people always want to know about, when am I going to start making money back from PR? Basically, what is the return on investment of a relationship? We all know that if you get into a relationship with someone and you give, you're going to get back, but you don't know what you're going to get back and you don't know when you're going to get it back, but that's okay because you're in a genuine relationship with that person. And it's the same thing with PR. What you want to be doing is, PR is not about, in the longer term, it's about making money and obviously growing your brand and stuff. But in essence, the reason you're doing it should never be for, I'm trying to make more money and that's why I'm doing the PR. It's about building the relationship over time that then starts to pay back over time. We all okay? Hey, hello. Right, okay. Oh, hey, you look lovely. Oh, you look so beautiful. Did you go exercising? Oh, no. Right, okay.
I just put on some makeup.
Oh, you look lovely. Right, okay.
I have to work hard.
Okay. Right, next one. So yeah, so we all clear on what PR is? Good. Right. So in essence, PR is your way of managing, not controlling the connection with your publics and the perception of you and your business, right? So we cannot control what people are going to think about us, but we can manage it. And if you are not managing it, your brand is basically what people think about you anyway. So whether you actually make an effort with your brand, your personal brand, and the way you show up or what you say, it doesn't matter. Your brand, until you actually manage it, your brand is what other people have to say about you and what other people think about you. And the thing is, we don't have any control of that, and we don't have any way of managing that. But when we actually actively participate in our own in our own promotions and our PR in that way, we are now actually taking management, you know, and then we're managing our perception. We're able to manage the perception that people have of us. We're able to manage the positioning that we have in people's minds. And one of the biggest reasons that PR is a great thing is because it works, like I said, it works in absence of you being there. But what you want is to be top of mind share. This is something that people forget in terms of when we're talking about what the return or the KPI is, you know, that you can't measure it in that way, but being top of somebody's mind is always going to put you up there above everybody else, right? Because that's what you want. When you if I say think of a fizzy drink, you're all going to come back with someone type. Let me see. Right, fizzy drink. Let me see. Coke, exactly, right? Top of mind share. Coca-Cola, top of mind share. Right, and that's years and years and years and years of PR. Well, that's what we want with you guys, right? We want, right, I'm thinking of this type of music, or I'm thinking of this type of coaching, or I'm thinking of this type of solution to my problem, and then you want your name to be top of mind, top of mind. And so, like I said, top of mind. Oh God, what is going on here? I'm so sorry. Top of mind share is very important. And that's what we're doing basically with our marketing, and that's what we want to be doing with our PR also. These slides are not friendly with me. Sorry. Right. So yeah, we've talked about your publicity and PR doing the work when you're not there. The other thing is that your social media marketing posts are not so searchable on Google by stakeholders, right? So the other benefit of having PR is that if I want to look up a certain topic of conversation that you are an expert in or something that you're doing, I can go onto Google and I can look up this topic and have you come up. I cannot do that with your posts. Nobody can do that with your posts. You might be able to do it when you go back on Facebook or Instagram or whatever to look for your posts, but it's not actually searchable. And what you want is to be able to have the search engine optimization that you are going to come up and you're going to appear in searches for that specific area of expertise that you are dealing with. So that was something else to note. So we talked about publics. Publics, in essence, are your stakeholders or people who have anyone who has an interest in your brand. So that could include your current audience, your current clients, the people you're trying to target as clients, established fan bases of, I was going to say competitors or people who have like businesses, you know, sometimes you might be looking for a sales coach. Sometimes you've got to think about, well, if they were looking for a sales coach, what is it that they think that they might need instead? Because that happens a lot, right? What they need is sales, but what they think that they need is another systems thing. So sometimes you've got to be looking kind of laterally at what it is that the person that you're thinking about maybe looking at. And that when you think about that, then you can come up with different ideas as to how to position articles and write things for those people, or the kind of people that you can actually link up with or coordinate with in order to, you know, maybe go into their groups and do a live stream or something, or share some information there. So you want to be looking at established fan bases, you know, so if somebody else has an established fan base, like if you're a dating coach, for instance, you know, you want to be targeting Matthew Hussey's, you're a dating coach for women, you want to be targeting Matthew Hussey's audience, for instance, right? Because he currently has everybody. And so you want to come in and come up with something different so that you're going to attract the people that are already interested in that area anyway. And that's one of the easiest ways to get interest from the relevant people. So people that you can collaborate with, complementary service providers, and the general public. The other publics to consider when we're going above the market, which is what we want to do with you guys, right? You're not trying to establish yourself within the market, right? You don't want to be there where everyone else is kind of in the, the red ocean, right? You want to be blue ocean, so you want to go above them. So the publics that you really need to be thinking about that everyone else doesn't think about is your journalists and editors of publications. What is it that they're seeing of you? What have they seen of you in another publication or online in order for them to think, I've got to have this person, I've got to have this, I've got to interview this person, I really want this person to come to my audience. Trade associations and governing bodies is ones that people forget about, right? You know, if you are a coach, are you signed up with the International Coaching Association, whatever? You know, what governing bodies may you be part of? Executive and charity boards, because that's also another area where you can actually, if you have great PR, then you'll often have people reach out to you to say, hey, do you want to join this executive board, or do you want to join this charity board, which again adds to your credibility and your trustworthiness and all of that sort of stuff. If you're planning on going corporate, selling corporate, you want to know what do they think about you, what are they seeing of you, and investors, and also the government, right? So one of the things that I like to do for clients, if they've got to a certain stage, would be to apply for an honour, a Queen's honour for them in the UK. So it's quite important that that person has a brand that is in alignment, you know, that is legal, you know, that is doing all of the things that it's supposed to be doing, because there's no point applying for an honour with the, you know, well, not a Queen's honour now, a King's honour with somebody who isn't doing things in the right way, right? So you've always got to think, if you're looking to go above, right, you want to be thinking above, so you want to be looking at those sorts of things. Right, next slide. Mass media. What is mass media? It's simply a means of communication that enables you to reach a large number of people in a short time, such as television, newspapers, magazines, and radio. And the reason that I am so passionate about mass media, I don't think anyone remembers King Charles. It's true. It's so true. The reason I'm so passionate about media is because it is literally, publicity is the fastest, most effective medium to deliver a message or share a transformational advice with your audience, right? You can do it on social media. You can only reach a maximum of 5,000 friends. If you put ads out, you could probably reach a few more people than that. Even then, though, even though you've used ads, you're still only able to target people who have demonstrated an interest in what it is that you've got to do. Whereas if you go wide with mass media, you can reach everybody, right? You can reach people who didn't even want to know about you, but then you're on their radar, and then they may tell someone else about you. So it's just a much faster way to reach the audience that you would like to, and that's why I'm passionate about it. PR versus publicity. Right, so in essence, I did say earlier, some people model up the two. Publicity is about the comms, for the company, and it's all focused on raising awareness, right? Whereas PR is about the strategy behind it, which is about drawing attention to certain aspects of your brand in order to manage it or to influence the way that the public or the public perception of you. Does that make sense to you guys? Poor King Charles. Does that make sense? Yeah, right, cool. And the reason I wanted to obviously make the distinguish between that is because it is something that people do think of PR as publicity. It's not. PR is like an overall, if you think about umbrellas, marketing is the biggest umbrella. Underneath that umbrella then comes PR, and then under that umbrella would then come publicity and various other aspects of it. PR in itself is, you know, publicity in itself is not the whole of PR. PR covers that. So that's why I wanted to share that with you. Next thing, right. Oh, have I missed something? Right, okay, right. How PR has changed over the years and how this affects you. Right, so PR used to be seen as a separate to marketing, but in the digital age, the lines have blurred with that. So what we now have is something called integrated PR. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you may have seen lots of people come up, and the odd person come up on Facebook and moan about, oh, pay to play PR, that's so, you know, that's so terrible, or, you know, it's awful that people are paying for this or they're paying for that or whatever it is. But actually, the way PR has changed, as you will see from this peso model, which was thought up by a lady called Ginny, I've forgotten her name now. But anyway, she's so this amazing woman, she's come up with this concept called the peso model, which basically talks about paid, earned, shared, and owned PR. So this is what PR looks like now. Right, so we do have paid elements of PR. We do have earned PR, which is what we normally do, you know, which is what you normally think about when you think about PR. We have shared media, which is where you put out stuff for yourself on social media, and then we have the owned media, you know, where you on your website you are optimizing your search engine, you're optimizing your website for certain keywords, etc. But there is an element about paying for your PR as well, and we're looking at social media ads. That is paid PR. If you take an article that you've had put out there and you turn it into an ad, That's paid PR. Boosting your content, you know, boosting your posts is paid PR. Whatever you do to get fan acquisition, you know, if you put out there for Facebook and you try and get more fans to your page, it's paid media, right? And sponsored content, paid publishing, all of those things. It's not illegal or unethical to engage in those things. And although many people who know nothing about PR would have you believe that that actually is the case, right? All I would say is what you don't want to be doing is pretending that something that is paid for or you know, that is an advertorial or something like that, or sponsored content. You would not want, the problem comes in when people try to pretend that being part of Forbes Council is the same as actually having Forbes write a feature on you. Well, we know the difference between that, because when Forbes writes a feature on you, it's a full page feature, right? When you're writing something as part of Forbes Council, that's you writing your own article. So you're doing your own PR. So, you know, there's a big difference between somebody validating you as somebody to follow and somebody to watch versus you writing your own article, because there's no different to actually writing an article on your own Facebook page. It's just on a different platform. So most people are focusing on publicity. This is interesting. Yeah. Oh, where's this gone now? Bloody thing. Right, okay. Oh, my slides keep sliding. Sorry. Right, anyway, we've just ruined that now. Okay, anyway, so do we have an understanding around this? I will send the slides out afterwards when we finish, but this is really good for you to hold on to, guys, around understanding that PR is now integrated. We are now in the age of integration of PR. So your social media and your marketing will meet your PR, and that is going to be the most effective strategy that you can do right now. Okay. How to implement integrated marketing? Well, just in a nutshell, you would be looking at clear messaging, right? Because that's important for everything. What is it that you're trying to say? What are you trying to say to your audience? What do they need to hear from you? What tactics are you planning on using? You know, are you going to use press releases? Are you going to use your social media content? Are you going to have lots of testimonials written about you? Are you going to set up events, blogs? Are you going to be creating content? Are you going to use user-generated content, which means like people who use your services or whatever, you're going to get the content from them and then you're going to put that out there? What opportunities are you going to use to raise brand awareness and establish your brand as an industry expert? What tactics are you going to use? You know, your marketing content can be repurposed into PR content with success. And a perfect example of that, and I wasn't sure how to get this up actually, but a perfect example of that is I worked with a client once who wrote a brilliant Facebook post about, it was at the time that film came out with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, Stars Born. So she did a post about that. And I remember thinking, that is a brilliant post. That is something that other people are going to want to hear about, because she was talking about the masculine, the dance between the masculine and the feminine, and the masculine, you know, being able to support the feminine. And it was a really lovely piece. And I was like, let's put that out there. And so I decided to send it to Elephant Journal. And within one night or within 24 hours or something, I think it already had 5,000 views. And actually, if I look it up now, I am quite sure it's had well in excess of like 40,000 views since then. You know, it pretty much went viral overnight. And as a result, it resulted in, and this is the best result I've had so far with a client, is 502. So because she actually had something that she had a lead magnet that she wanted to get people in with. So she added the lead magnet to the article and got 502 leads in one day off the back of that article. Like, that's insane. You know, what could you do with 502 leads off the back of one article? And bearing in mind that piece of content started off just as a piece of social media content, right? It wasn't even meant to be an article, but I saw some value in that, and I was like, right, this needs to be an article. Let's put that out. And then that's what happened. So talking about, you know, your tactics around that, you know, your content that you put out on social media can pretty much all be repurposed to be put out as articles. And if you don't have the time to write articles, there is some fantastic nifty AI software that means you can actually put your posts into this software. You can ask for it to write in your sort of tone of voice, and you can actually turn it into articles. So that's one, you know, that's a nifty thing. And if you want to know about the software that you can use to do that, then you can just send me a message afterwards and I can let you know. But it's literally like, it's life-changing. You can literally do so much with that and actually speed up the time that it takes to actually for you to produce content and get it out there. And then the final thing is measurement. You know, in order to work out whether your integrated marketing and PR is working, you need to be able to measure. So what kind of things are we measuring? We're measuring web traffic. You know, when an article goes out, how does your web traffic spike? How many people share the article once it goes out on social media? How many comments are you receiving, or new followers are you getting on social media? How many pieces of coverage have you had, right? Just a basic number. How many pieces of coverage have you secured? What is the sentiment around the PR? So this is something that, again, at a lower level, people don't think about, but it's something that's quite important. You want the sentiment of your PR to be good, right? You want it to be a positive sentiment. You want people to be saying good things about you. You want it to be positive about your brand. You don't want negative sentiments, right? So of course, you know, that whole thing about all PR is great, all PR is great PR is nonsense, because it's not. It helps to a degree, and I know we seem to have entered an age now where, you know, people seem to be making, I don't know, just saying stuff for the sake of getting, you know, blowing up. I feel like almost what happened with Jeremy Clarkson the other day was an example of that, you know. And then we had Gucci a few months back, didn't we, or a year ago or something, and they did the blackface jumpers. And then you know, that we've had certain things where it almost feels like it's a publicity stunt in order to get people talking about that brand. You know, as a personal brand, I'd just say leave well alone with things like that, unless it's something that you're really, really passionate about. We don't want to be going down the controversial route or overly controversial route for attention, because it's just, again, you know, you're a high level brand, don't want to be doing that. So that's that. Next thing is, right, key differences between PR and marketing. I just thought I would drop that there for you so you can see that. You can all see that, right? You can see, I can't see it now. Bloody hell. So yeah, in essence, you can see, like I said, I'll send the slides through, but marketing, PR, and advertising are all three different things, right? Marketing, as I said, is focused on the primary market for your marketing, basically, are people that you want to become clients or the people that you want to buy from you. Whereas PR is about all of your publics. It's about in-house, it's about your staff within. You're looking at internal comms as well as external comms. You're looking at anyone who may have an interest in anything that you're doing as a business, whereas marketing is solely focused on actually getting the money through the door, right? And that's okay, it's fine, but it's very different. Whereas PR is all about the relationships. And then of course you've got advertising, which is completely paid, right? So you're paying to be able to say what it is that you want to say, just to raise awareness. They all have their place within a business model and a sales model. However, you know, they all do different things. They work together really well, but they all do different things, and they have different ways of working. And PR, the strongest thing about PR for me is that it's third-party endorsement. Like, there's nothing better than having oh God, so sorry. Right, where has it gone now? Oh no, that's Leanne. Sorry. Oh, this is a nightmare. Honestly. Right. Now I've lost my screen. Why have I lost my screen? Right, where are we? Sorry, people. Is that better? Right, there we are. Okay. So there we are. So there's marketing, you know, systematic process and planning of an organization's promotional efforts, larger umbrella term. Remember, I talked about it being a larger umbrella that covers public relations and advertising, focused on promotion of products and or services in order to drive sales, audiences primarily customers or potential buyers, paid media, sometimes companies have to pay for marketing efforts, right? So you have to do Facebook ads and stuff occasionally, whereas PR is more about creating a favorable public image through relationship building and reputation management. That's like the biggest difference. Oh my God, this is doing this again. Sorry, people. Next time I'm going to get my assistant to do this for me. Right, so that's that. Next slide is slide 9. Right, who is the biggest celebrity who ever lived? You've already seen it, seen the next slide because it's rolled over several times. But I thought this was a great way of actually talking about how we want to. Fantastic. I thought this was a great way about talking about how we want to kind of position ourselves and what it is that we want to do when we are putting ourselves out there as personal brands. So, to my mind, the biggest celebrity who's ever lived is Jesus. Right? And when we are, and why is that? Right? Because in essence, however many thousands of years later, we all still know who he is. We all knew what he stood for. We know what his Achilles heel was. We know what he looked like, you know, whichever thing you subscribe to. He has a best-selling book. Exactly, a best-selling book. Exactly. Right. And so that's why I've used the words hook, look, and book. So 3 things you want to be getting down pat with for your brand, for your legacy fame formula is your hook. Like what is your purpose? Like why are you here? What is it that you want to share with the world? And a lot of times people will say to me, oh, I'm not really sure of what my messaging should be, or, you know, I'm not really sure of my message and what it is that I'm trying to share. And it's like, what is the thing that you can't stop talking about? Like, what is the thing that really annoys you? Usually it's the thing that really annoys you, possibly about the industry or whatever. And you're like, oh, gosh, I'm so fed up with the way people always do, or people always suffering from, or whatever. That is the message that usually you want to be bringing forward, right? And that message is also linked to your vision, which is, I always ask clients that work with me, what is it that if everyone took you up on your offer that was meant to take you up on your offer, right? So anyone who needed your work or what it was that you are doing now, or what it is that you're trying to put out, what would the world look like as a result of that? So if you're a coach, if everyone took you up on your coaching that needed your coaching, what would the world look like in 5-10 years time if everyone had access to that? You know, that is your vision. That's part of your vision. And then you can work backwards as to what it is that your messaging is supposed to be around that. Does anyone want to kind of share what the world would look like if everybody took them up on their, you know, had access to them that needed to?
Everybody would be really happy.
Yes.
Everybody would be just, you know, like above all the petty whatever you know, little things of life that happen. They wouldn't send people to hospitals, they wouldn't send people to the chemist and to the pub, and you know, and sending people into kind of escapism, or not even escapism, but running away from ism, you know, because so many people just like so seriously run away from life and don't even realize it. That if they knew how to face all of that without having to run, without wanting to run away, but use it to grow instead, just wow, I don't know what if I can possibly imagine the world. You know,
but that's what I'm talking about, and that's where you want to be going with your vision, breaking addictive behaviors too. Yeah, you know, that's your vision. Like, imagine a world like that. That's what you're working towards. So now you can work backwards from that and say, what is your mission? Well, my mission is to help as many people as possible get to that place, right? So that you can achieve this vision further down the line in 5 or 10 years time. Whether it actually happens or not, that's not the point. The point is, if you reach, the more people you reach is the closer you get to that vision. A world of dark majesty, creative opulence, and ancient wisdom. I love that. I love that. So yeah, and I mean, I've been working with Leanne, so I'm like, if people work with Leanne, I think there are so many people who are actually going to be able to. I mean, obviously, I don't know how Leanne sees the work that she does, but from what I've been doing with Leanne, like, it's just a breath of fresh air to actually work with somebody who actually knows what they are talking about within within an area, because lots of times people will say, oh, I know what high value clients want, or, you know, high net worth clients want, or whatever it is you want to call them, right? But Leanne actually does know, and Leanne can actually explain why she knows, and she can break it down. And then I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is really cool. Now I have a real understanding of what it is that I'm trying to sell to people, and the words that I need to use, and why that's going to connect with them. Whereas previously I was kind of felt like there was a little bit of a gap between, I knew that what I had was valuable, but I didn't know how to communicate that value, right? And that's really important. And one of the lines that I feel drawn to say to you guys today, because someone said it to me this week about something, was, you know, don't confuse being wanted for being valued, right? My word for 2023 is all about value. It's value, right? And very often we want the client, or the client wants us, but do they value us? Do you value that client? Do you value what it is that's coming from them? If there's no value there in terms of like a value exchange, you might as well leave well alone. And I think we've kind of seen that in the online space with what's been going on with the, you know, all of the stuff, the coaching stuff that's been going on. There's been a lack of value, right? Lack of value of the clients that are coming through the door, potentially, you know, allegedly. There's been a lack of value of the clients. It's been more about the money than it has been about changing people's lives. And then conversely, people haven't valued the contracts that they've signed up with, right? Like, it's kind of worked on both sides. And value is really, really important. So yeah, so that's a big thing for me. Oh, thanks, Leanne. Okay, cool. Right, so basically, I want you to think more about that around your hook. So I'm going to talk about Jesus's hook, hooks. So he is the Son of God. It's a pretty huge hook, right? Like, if you were going to go and sell yourself to a newspaper on the basis of that, and it's like, why the hell should I write about you? Hello, I am the Son of God, right? And then what makes you interesting? Well, I'm the Son of God, but I'm also a carpenter's son. So there's already a paradox. It's his birthday on Sunday. Yeah, hey, Jesus. He was also a carpenter's son. So what I really, one of these things that I want you to really think about is your paradox, right? Because paradox is sexy as hell. Each of us has paradox within us, right? So I like to think of mine as being a bit like ghetto fabulous, because I came from, you know, I kind of grew up with not very much and whatever, but then I've kind of, you know, I now live a life where I love opulence and all the rest of it, but I will still kind of revert back to my old vernacular and stuff. So there is a little bit of like a little bit of a tension, a little bit of paradox there with where it is that I've come from and where I am now. So that's one of the paradoxes for me. You know, it will be something else for Jesus in particular. It's like how he was like the Son of God, but he was also a carpenter's son. Like, that's like a major paradox, right? You know, so what I want you guys to think about is think about your paradox, because that really does help with kind of beguiling people and actually drawing people into particularly the media, right? Because that's what we like. We love paradox. We love the, you know, we love the stay at home, I don't know, the mum who, I don't know, let me just think of something, a story, a headline. We love the rags to riches tale because of the paradox, right? Going from like not being able to eat, you know, not being able to eat to now being a millionaire and flying private jets, right? We love that because of the paradox. We also like it when somebody shows their Achilles heel. And in terms of Jesus, his Achilles heel was, and also his superpower was the fact that he was made of flesh, right? So he was the Son of God, but he was of flesh, which meant that he could die for us. And he was able to achieve his mission because he was made of flesh. Had he been the Son of God and he'd come down as a beam of light or whatever, it wouldn't quite work that way. They went from the homeless to the editor of Success magazine. Exactly, right? That sort of thing. So we love that. So kind of start looking at that in yourselves, or maybe even ask people around you, you know, what is it that's like paradoxical about me, you know? And then you need to do an internal look at what your Achilles heel is. Like, what is it the thing about you that's kind of like a weakness, and it almost makes you relatable? Because these stories that people always want to put out about rags to riches is so overplayed, right? And some of us aren't coming from that background, and so we don't need to go down that path. But what you do need is a bit of paradox, and you need to show that in some way, shape, or form you are relatable. You know, you don't have to, you know, be poor to be relatable to your main audience. It could just be something that you struggled with that they may struggle with. You know, for me, one of my Achilles heels, for instance, is the fact that I've only recently discovered that I've ADHD. So, you know, that's an Achilles, that's proved an Achilles heel for me throughout my business for a long time. And it's you know, that will become part of my story. You know, for the longest time I didn't realize that, and that's why I couldn't scale my business, because certain things just didn't make sense to me, and it was a real struggle, you know. So there's that. Jesus's look, right? So one of the things that are really important is your look. So whether you are of the thought that he was blonde hair and blue-eyed, or you go by what it was said in the Bible and he had feet of brass and hair of wool, doesn't matter. Either way, he had a look, right? And it was a strong one. So the reason I'm saying that to you guys is because you need, as part of your personal brand, there needs to be a look. I think to be honest with you, I think everyone on this call does have a very distinctive look, but it was something that I thought I would mention anyway, because it's quite important to know. And you can always up level that. So if you think about Michael Jackson, it was all about the hair and the white socks. Like, you literally want to go for your ultra iconic look. And there are ways that you can make the look that you've currently got even more iconic than it is, to the point of it being a silhouette. So I want you to start thinking of yourselves almost in terms of a silhouette. If you were made into a silhouette, like, how distinctive would that look be? Because that's quite powerful. Because if you think about people like I said, Michael Jackson, you can turn him into a silhouette and know who he is. Lady Gaga, you could probably turn into a silhouette and know who she was. And who was the other person I was thinking of? The Vogue woman, Anna Wintour. Like, you turn her into a silhouette. It's a very, very striking, sharp look. And again, Beyonce, and I think Madonna, Prince did this well. Yeah, so you know what I'm saying, right? So you can, you know, we're all there, but we can always go like a little bit more. Elvis, exactly. Marilyn Monroe, again, it's so iconic. The look becomes so iconic. And that's what we want for you guys, because we want, when you turn up on TV or you turn up on social media or whatever, you've got this iconic look. It's like, oh, that's definitely Anne. I don't even need to see her face because it's just her hair, like the way she wears her hair. Do you know what I mean? Or it's those eyebrows. Those fantastic eyebrows. But yeah, so think about that. Just think about how you can go even deeper into your icon, basically. And then the book, right? So I'm not saying that everyone has to write a book. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book per se. Obviously, a book is a good idea, but the reason I've mentioned book is because we want to look at a body of work. Every single one of us should have a body of work. So obviously the book is the Bible, and that is a body of work from end to end of all things to do with the gospel and all things to do with Jesus. For you, whether you have a book yet or not, your body of work should be end to end. There should be a framework, or there should be a modality that is clearly outlined in sort of step-by-step format in a way that can be easily explained to the media and to your audience as to what it is that you do and how you do it and the steps that are taken in order to get there. Does that make sense to you guys? Does anyone have an issue with that? So if you haven't already got that, start working on it, because that is going to be really, really important in order to get into the media. I've been watching a video of Matthew Hussey yesterday, so I'm going to give you an example of, like, you know, sort of a modality in that way. So Matthew Hussey is a dating coach, right? And he's obviously become famous. You created it last year. Excited. Awesome. Yay. So Matthew Hussey is a very famous dating coach, and he's well known, but his modality or his framework is the X, what is it, like the X number of word text. So it'll be like the 7-word text to send to your man in order if he's ghosted you. You know, the four word whatever you've got to say to whatever. So that's his formula that he follows, and that becomes catchy. And then when he was on Good Morning America, you know, that's what they said. Oh, you know, the man who charges £10,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is, the man who charges $10,000 to work with him one-to-one, you know, and helps people with their dating life with, you know, five-word texts or whatever that will stop you from losing your man or something like that. And it's really catchy, right? And it works. So we all want to have something like that, because if the media wants to speak to you about what it is that you're doing and what you're sharing, you need to be able to make it make it bite-sized. And it also needs to work in like a 2-minute interview, because very often if you end up on TV and you need to speak about something, you're going to need to be able to say it in 2 minutes. They may say you have 10 minutes and it might be narrowed down to 2 minutes. And if you can't say that, are you all right, Leanne? Oh, okay, yeah. If you can't distill what it is that you're saying or what your process is into that way, you're going to lose the audience, and it will be a struggle for you to kind of secure the bits that you want. So you really do want to work on that. So in addition to all of that, Jesus did have a mission, right? So we talked about you guys having a mission. He died for the sins of all mankind, I think. I'm hoping that that's not too far off what it was that he did. His vision was for everyone to know God through him, right? So he had the vision, and in order for him to do that, he had to do the mission of dying for the sins of all mankind. His message obviously fell along that. The other thing that he had, and the other thing that you needed to, I want you guys to consider, is his disciples. So you want your first followers and your disciples, basically. So I want you to pay attention to the people who are the biggest fans of yours at the moment. They may be clients, they may be former clients, but they are people who talk about they are like your brand ambassadors. You want disciples, because any movement, any major movement starts with those people. So if you haven't, got the testimonials that you need to from those people, right? If you haven't got them, if they've not spoken out, they haven't done a review for you or whatever, please do that, because those people are the ones who are going to, start the interest for the other people to get involved, and offer referral rates or whatever it is if they tell other people about you, right? If we're trying to get your word about what it is that you do out to the world, you want to make sure that you have your own disciples and brand ambassadors. And that was one of the reasons why Jesus was so successful in spreading his gospel. He couldn't do it on his own. He needed to have people around him helping him with that, right? The next thing that you need to have is your proof of concept, which is, in essence, the transformational results that you get for your clients, and the PR, right? That is your proof of concept. If people are talking about you, if Forbes is talking about you, or Daily Mail is talking about you, or whoever is talking about you, that is proof of your concept. That's proof that what you're doing is worthwhile. For Jesus, that was obviously things like turning water into wine, right? And then people went and spoke about that. So that was magical. He transformed water into wine. That was a big deal. That was proof of his concept. That was proof that he was, and then I think we had the cataracts on the eyes with the clay and whatever. So he had lots of transformational results that people went on to speak about. And we want the same thing for you guys. We want the transformational results, and we want them to be spoken about by people. And then the last bit of that is what you are going to be doing, in essence, and will help you when you're getting on TV or when you're speaking to the media, is decoding myths and mysteries of life, decoding myths and mysteries, basically. So Leanne, for instance, obviously you're doing coaching, and I'll say an element of it is sales, right? So you part of what you're doing is decoding the myth around what it actually takes to sell to a certain group of people. Evgenia, one of the things that you'll be decoding is obviously the myth that you need to pop lots of pills, or you need to go away and drink or whatever, or avoid your problems in order to get better, or circumvent getting better or whatever. So what you want to be doing is thinking of ways that you are decoding the myths that people have around your industry and what it is that you do. And part of that is speaking up, and I've spoken about this before, is speaking up against authority. The only way you are going to pull down some other authority, it's not about pulling down another authority, right? But it's about raising your star above the others, is by speaking from a place of authority. Nobody had ever spoken about being the Son of God. So Jesus had already trumped everybody else, right? Because no one else had come saying, the Son of the God. Like, you can't get much higher than that. So he'd already leapfrogged anybody else that had anything to say about it, right? So that was him there. But you lot will all have something about the way that you do your work, and what it is, and the results that your clients are getting, and the things that you're putting out into the world, that will trump everything else that's going on out there. And you will need to be comfortable speaking against, not people, just methodologies or ways of working or things that are going on in the industry, in order to be able to, for people to be able to say, oh, right, I understand what you're saying. And then that's how you get your disciples, right? Because people have been following this way and they've not been getting the results that they want, and they're struggling. And then they're like, oh, there's Leanne, there's Evgenia, there's Hurricane, who's sharing this with me, and I've never thought of things in this way. So what you're doing is basically blowing everything that they thought they already knew out of the water by bringing new insights to the space that you're in. And I know you guys are already really good at this anyway, but I just wanted to remind you of the fact that, it's so important to keep doing that, keep speaking against authority in that way, because if you just follow it, if you fall in line with everyone else, you'll never be an authority. You're just going to be a follower then. You need to be speaking against authority in order to be perceived as authority. Because it's because I know for a fact it was definitely something that Leanne did. Yeah, perfect example of that is when Leanne put out a post about about consumer behavior. And I've seen like loads of people kind of talk about consumer behavior and what's going on, right? And they kind of drop a bit of it into a post, but they never actually went into detail. Leanne did a whole video on it, like a whole webinar on it. And I was like, this woman knows her stuff. So I was like, right, I'm all about that. So I defected from wherever it was that I was paying attention to prior to that. And I was like, I'm all about Leanne now, right? And that's a perfect example of me. Yeah, no, seriously. So that's a perfect example of like you trumping authority and then me defecting from whatever I thought was authority prior to that and then coming over to you. So that's just how it works though. So keep doing it. Right, okay. So yeah, think about your hook, think about your look, think about your book, your modality. And you said, some of you said you've already worked on that. You want your disciples, your proof of concept, like I said, it's going to be your sales, it's going to be your results, it's going to be how desired you are by others. And we could be looking at volume or value. So obviously when I was telling you about that Matthew segment on Good Morning America, one of the things that made a hook for him was the fact that he charges $10,000 to work with somebody, and he has 3 million, was it 3 million followers or something like that? So numbers matter to that degree. Numbers matter, or the people matter. So if you may have worked with a celebrity, for instance, you may call yourself a celebrity X or whatever, you know, you work with celebrities. It may be that you've made loads of money doing what it is that you're doing, or you've helped your clients make loads of money, or it might be that you're working with really, you know, high net worth individuals. Things like that, whether we're talking about volume or value, are going to add to the proof of concept. So don't forget that. Right. And also what you want as part of your decoding myths and mysteries for your audience, you want to be offering, which I know some of you are doing already anyway, easily accessible free content that helps everybody, because the recognition, because you want to be recognized as somebody that's actually helping people, not just kind of, you know, taking what you can get. You're actually helping people with lots of this free content. And also it helps again with when you're putting yourself into the media and saying, you know, I've helped so many people, or so many people have had help from me doing X, Y, and Z, and putting yourself out there. Right, yeah. So usually what you'll find is your modality, your methodology, whatever it is, your framework, whatever it is you want to call it, is going to be counterintuitive, and it's going to go against authority. But what you want to do is make sure that it's easy to explain and easy to implement. So you want it to be easy to explain to people in the media, easy to explain to people on your timeline, and it needs to be relatively easy to implement, not simple to implement and kind of, you know, obviously they've got to go through the process with you, but in theory, in their head, when they think about the 5 steps, the 5 or the 7 steps they need to take to get from A to B with your process, it needs to feel like it's easy, because the media is not going to have any interest in anything that kind of, you know, you've got to go here, there, and everywhere and round in circles in order to get the results. It needs to sound really simple, even if there's obviously a process that's involved in doing that. Okay, so moving on quickly to the 3 things that you want to, if you want to be seen as an industry expert. So we've talked about your hook, your look, and your book. Going one step further, you do want a strong personal brand. A tagline can be very, very powerful if it feels right for you. You know, who are you? What are your values? What do you stand for? And why is it worth choosing you over anybody else? And that's where your differentiation has to come in there. What is it that makes you different? Why is it that people should be buying from you instead of anybody else? And again, you're not competing with other people because you're above the industry. You're just competing with what's already gone before you in terms of theory. You know, so we're looking at your visuals. Obviously, that covers your website, your social media, how you dress, audio, how do you sound, what kind of things can people listen to about you, how you're showing up, how you're speaking, and the feelings. Most importantly, what is the feelings that you want to evoke in somebody when they think of you? Like, do you want them to smile when they think of you? Do you want them to feel excited or exhilarated when they think of you? What is the feelings? And then sometimes, like, look at being led from that place when you're creating content or putting stuff out there about yourself, because it's all about the emotions. It's all about the emotions, right? It's the emotion that you invoke in somebody that they're going to remember. It's like, oh, every time I see Leanne, she makes me smile, or every time I see Evgenia, it just makes me, you know, or Hurricane, or Claire, you know, every time I see Claire, I just want to, you know, I just feel warm and fuzzy inside. Like, what is the feeling that you want to evoke, an emotion that you want to evoke in someone, because you want to start feeding that through the content that you're putting out there as well. and you want to be influencing people, right? So influence is a huge part of what you need for success. That and influence to me is basically taking a seat at the table or taking the throne, right? And if you're here, we just want to take the throne, right? We don't. Sometimes we want to take a seat at the table, but other times we just want to take the throne. We want to take the throne off whoever else was on it, and this is us, and this is where we are. We're above everybody else. And you know, part of the conversation around that leads from, we want to be talking about, like, what is your core belief in your message? Like, what is that core belief? What do you believe? What is the thing that you believe more than anything? I believe that everybody should have the opportunity to. So for me, you know, my core belief is that people should be able to become famous for making a difference they've already made. That's what drives me. That's what drives the work that I do. That's what I believe. You know, not only celebrities, you know, celebrities shouldn't just be people who have managed to get on TV. People should be able to become famous for doing amazing stuff. And I believe that they should be able to be in the newspapers, and we should be able to get rid of, you know, we should be able to displace some of the sad stories that we see, or the ones that we don't want to see, with a lot more wholesome, fulfilling stuff out there. And every single one of you guys, I want to see you guys in newspapers and stuff, doing your thing, so that we've got more people who are inspiring rather than, you know, not doing a great deal. Internal authority is a huge thing. You know, we all need to feel that we are an authority within ourselves in order for it to feed out into the world. I don't think any of you guys have a problem with that on here, though, but it is something that I do generally have to speak about, because people always think that authority is something that is an external thing. It's not. Basically, if you stand firm in your truth and in your message and your belief, and then that feeds out, and then people will see you as an authority because you show up like one, right? Clarity of message is obviously important. You need to be very clear on what it is that you are trying to convey, and that message needs to be repeated over and over again, because we learn by repetition. So even if you think you're boring people with what it is that you're saying, you do need to keep saying it over and over again, because that's what makes people understand what it is that why you're there and what your purpose is. We talked about point of difference. You need to show up, presence, right? You need to be there. PR helps you be not omnipotent, omnipresent. PR helps you be omnipresent, right? So you can be everywhere at the same time if you've got PR going on. Not quite the same if you're on social media. You cannot be everywhere if you're just on Facebook, but you can be everywhere on multiple people's computers if you are in the media and you've got an article, and you can be shown up again next week and the week after that and next month and the year after that, and 3 years time it will still be coming up. So that's why I want you guys to really think about getting going with that. So yeah, and all of that helps build. Oh, and then amplification, of course, right? PR is a great amplifier. Publicity is a great amplifier. You can amplify what it is that you're doing already, what you're doing on social media, and just take it one step further by pushing it out there and reaching more people, because that's what we want. And again, it's what Jesus did, right? Out there with his disciples, there was amplification. So he spoke to his disciples spoke to their people, and so on and so forth. And that's how we ended up with, you know, the most famous guy in the world, basically. And that all helps building your authority and credibility. Okay. Right, 7 P's. I'm going to whiz through the rest now because I know we're getting on a bit. So the 7 P's of profitable PR that every celebrity leverages is purpose, right? So I want you to think about what is your what I call my BPLY, which is your business, your personal, and your legacy why. Why are you doing it? Like, why the PR? Why do you need the PR? What is the business reason for the PR? What is the personal reason for the PR? What is the legacy reason for the PR in terms of what legacy you're going to leave? Perception is the next P. Internal versus external perception. It starts with how you perceive yourself. If you perceive yourself as top of the pops, then that's going to translate into the way that you show up and how people see you. If you kind of how you perceive yourself is how others are going to perceive you. So you can have all the best PR, and I know this from personal experience, you can have the best PR in the world, you can have the best opportunities land at your door, but if your perception is not in the right place, you are going to find ways to self-sabotage that. So just to do a bit of a check as to how do you perceive yourself, right? Because we all perceive ourselves in different ways. And you want to know how does your audience see you? You know, people sort of say, oh, I don't know what my brand is, I don't know what my message is. And I'm like, ask your audience, like, go and say, what are 3 words that you would associate with me, like with my brand, and find out whether what they see you as is actually what it is that you're doing, you know, what it is that how you actually see yourself, because that's quite important. It's quite an important thing to do, to actually, because we think we come across in a certain way, and actually we probably come across in a completely different way, and not necessarily in a bad way. It could be a good thing, but there may be things that you didn't even realize that people thought about you, that you're not aware of. So just ask the question, I would say, as a bit of like market research, just gentle market research. The next thing is positioning. Internal and external. Where do you see yourself in the market? Are you high end? Are you middle end? Are you lower end? You know, where is it that you're positioning yourself? And does your packaging, your pricing, everything else reflect that? Because if not, then we've got an issue. And the reason I mention this is because I have worked with people before who have been wanting to sell high end, but then everything about other things, about other aspects of their brand, was not reflected in that. And therefore, people feel the disconnect between what it is that you say you are and what it is that you're actually coming up with. Like, even if we don't know why, we just feel like an ickiness. We can kind of feel that something's not quite right. So when someone's trying to sell us luxury and they're not coming from it, and we know that, like, luxury knows luxury, basically, right? So luxury knows luxury. If that's where you're at, then that's where you're at, and you can kind of spot certain things that would let you know that the experience that you're about to experience is going to be a luxury experience, versus something else. So you want to make sure that that everything is reflected in where it is that you say that you're positioning yourself. If you're middle of the road, then it means that your language needs to be middle of the road. Your pricing needs to be middle of the road, etc., etc., etc. You can't be doing this, you know, I'm sort of high end, but then, you know, things don't work. And I'm sure you all know what I mean by that. Paradox, we already talked about that. I said authorities only increase by going against established authority. And excuse my language here, but basically you do not want to be bothering with, when it comes to getting into the press, you do not want to be bothering with the nodding dog brigade, right? Nobody makes a difference by getting more people to nod with them, right? What you get is, you need to basically piss in the mainstream, right? And when I say that, I literally mean that in the media. Piss in the mainstream media, because it's the mainstream where you're going to make the difference. And it helps shake things up. And I'll give you a perfect example of why I say that. I'm sure you guys have all heard of Rupert Murdoch, like the press magnate. One of the things that he would always do when he was buying newspapers is he would go to a country, I think he did it in Australia, he would go to a country, and the first newspaper he would buy, and this is one of the processes that I've used for my clients as well to actually help them get results faster. The first newspaper he would buy would be a populist one, what you would call a tabloid, right? You know, the trashy tabloid. And the reason he would do that was because it had a much bigger audience than the broadsheets, you know, like than the Telegraph, and I don't know what they are called in America, like the broadsheets, but it would have, you know, it would have a much bigger audience. Like, did you know that the Sun in the UK is like the biggest, is like the most read newspaper? And although most people would laugh at the Sun, right, but it is actually the most read newspaper. And obviously then the Daily Mail is the most read website of all of them, which is why I would always go for the Daily Mail over another one, especially if we're trying to actually make a difference and we're trying to reach a bigger audience and make a difference in more lives. Does that make sense? So yeah, so think about that. You want to be challenging in order for people to sit up and take notice. You want to challenge. And like I said, I've done that with clients. I had a dating coach get the ring coach, right? And her whole thing was helping people get married or get the ring, basically. And by what do you call it? Rotational dating, it was called. So basically you don't commit to any partner until he decides that he wants to marry you, which is completely off the wall, right, in comparison to what we generally do in the dating world, right? But it got the attention of the major newspapers, and then as a result of that, it literally went viral, and there was all kinds of crazy things that happened as a direct result of that. She was approached for TV. You know, we'd connected her with a celebrity in the States as well who was interested in getting hold of her stuff. There was all sorts of amazing things. As far as Australia and New Zealand, she was interviewed as a result of that article, because we basically went down the road of being really salacious and you know, and it worked, right? So if you're okay with that, then by all means go down that path. The next P is preparation. So how emotionally and operationally prepared are you for the opportunities that are going to come your way? Your back end needs to be able to handle the PR and the fame that's coming your way. Otherwise, there's no point. And you need to be emotionally regulated to the place where you are able to deal with people saying things that you don't necessarily agree with, or not like, or not agreeing with you, or not liking you, or any of that sort of stuff. So it's really important to have that kind of whatever support is needed in order to make that happen in place. Perfect example. I know you guys are all service providers rather than product providers, but there have been examples where somebody's gone live on something like, I don't know, what's the program, This Morning or something, and then it's gone mad, and then everybody's wanted to buy it, right? And then the website crashes on the back end because they can't handle the sales that are coming through, and then people end up disappointed because there's all of this stuff that they've just not done, and then the system just wasn't put in place. So they wanted the coverage, they wanted the fame, but they weren't actually ready for it. So I think it's very important to make sure that you're prepared, operationally prepared for that stuff. Right. Blah, 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 blah. And do you have time to achieve the outcomes that you want to attain, right? Do you have time to write the articles? Do you have time to follow up with the interviews? You need to make sure that you make time for that. Yes, it is an extra thing to add to your plate, but if it's worth doing, then it's worth doing properly, and it's worth putting time towards it. And again, that's another reason why I say it's better for you to have, at this level of your business, to have somebody helping you do that stuff, so that you just need to turn up for the interviews and stuff, or whatever it is. So what on earth does any of this stuff have to do with playing the PR long game? I found that it's a lot. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. Where it is that you're getting to in the media and stuff, nothing happens with the PR overnight. Obviously, you can sometimes go viral on something, which is great, but it takes time to build relationships with people. And apparently people need to say you something like between 5 and 7 times before they're actually going to think, that's a brand that I actually know. And it's great on social media, but as you know, we're all getting to a place on social media now where we don't necessarily always believe what it is that we see on social media, because there's more and more people being called out and more practices and stuff being called out. So one of the ways of actually showing that you're kind of head and shoulders above the rest, and also helps feeding into what's going on in the offline space as well, is by having some solid media backing you up, to kind of validate your work and what it is that you're doing and stuff. So all of these things should be a consideration when it comes to deciding how and where to pitch your expertise, to ensure that the PR not only continues to build on itself, but it's going to age well. You want PR that's going to age well. You don't want PR that you're going to look back at in 3 years' time and think, why on earth did I do that interview? That was terrible. Moving on quickly. So we've got the art of storytelling. Like I said, I'm going to send these slides through because I've gone a bit over what I wanted to. You want to master the art of storytelling, and basically what I've got here is an example of the Hollywood way of telling stories. You've generally been told to tell stories as a rags to riches, oh poor me, I started off broke and now I'm really wealthy, and how amazing am I? But that's like overdone. So we don't want to be doing that. What we want to be doing though is basically telling a story in the way of that's actually going to gain buy-in from the people and actually retain the attention of the people that we're speaking to. It's a big misconception that you have to do rags to riches. You don't have to. It's effective, but it's one-dimensional. And if we're aiming above the market, we don't need to engage in cheap where we don't need to. The good news is, if you never even eaten ramen in your life, oh, thanks, Leanne. All right then, darling. Take care. I'll send you the take care. Bye. The good news is that even if you have never eaten ramen in your life, you can use your story to build a strong personal brand and relate to your audience. So we've got the hero journey here, which we'll talk about the character where we start in the ordinary world, relatively humble beginnings, whatever that looks like to you. Something happens to change the course of your life. You get a spot of inspiration. Generally, somebody refuses the call, like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. Or no, a family member might say, oh, why are you going to start your business? That's not really a good idea. And then eventually you do that and you cross the threshold and you do what everyone says was impossible. You confront the enemy, and that could be anything. So the enemy could be for you, Hurricane, for instance, it could be like the music industry who, exploits. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be an enemy for all of us, right? Obviously, Evgenia, it could be well, I'm not going to say it's the NHS, but you know what I mean, right? Like, it could be the pharmaceuticals. For you, Claire, it could obviously be major PR agencies. It could be anything, right? There's going to be some sort of enemy that you will take on and win, basically, because that's your business is fulfilling a need, or what it is that you do is fulfilling a need that isn't already being taken care of. There are challenges which must be overcome, which tend to come in the law of threes. So things that you got wrong. Did you bite off more than you can chew? You know, what happened? Because obviously we all suffer challenges at some way. You know, it might be that we didn't, you know, we had to start again, we became bankrupt, whatever it is. There will always be something that will, you know, things will start happening, but then you'll end up with some challenges. And one of the last things that a lot of people don't do, particularly in the rags to riches tales, is mention your mentor, right? You want to make reference to somebody who actually helped you along the way, because that actually that's how you reveal your Achilles heel, and that's the best way of revealing your, what's the word, relatability, without having to say I was broke and that's how I was relatable to all you broke people, right? It's like, be relatable in another way, and you can do that by saying, right, I needed help, like I didn't do this on my own. You know, I've done an amazing job, but I had this person who helped me along the way in doing this. And that's really powerful. And if you think about any of the Hollywood films, there's always the kind of mentor. Obviously, the perfect example of that is Yoda, or, you know, or for Luke Skywalker or whatever it is, right? So that's that. So that's a way of doing the storytelling. The long game PR strategy is we want win, 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 win for all of our. We want win, 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 win for when we're pitching ourselves to the media. We want we want you to win as the client. We want the journo to win because they need to get paid. We want the publication to win because they've got an audience that they want to keep coming back and reading from them. And we want the reader to win, right? Because it's really important. What tends to happen when people are looking for PR is they just want them to win. They just want to look at what they want to talk about and what it is that they want to say. And actually, that's not going to work, because nobody's interested in what you want to say. What they're interested in is what's their audience going to be happy about. And obviously the journalist needs to make sure that the editor's happy for them to do that, so that they actually get paid for placing this article, right? Obviously by the publication. So there's all of these things to think about. So as long as you kind of take a step back and think, right, how am I best serving the audience at the other end of this? It's going to be much easier for you to be successful with your pitching. You want to keep in mind what each stakeholder wants for a better shot at nailing your pitch. So like I said, the journal wants their commission, right? And they want traction, because obviously the more people that see their articles, the better for them. They're going to get hired again. The publication wants a story that draws a large audience. The reader wants to be entertained, informed, and you want to stick in their memory that they need a call to action as well, right? Because you want them to do something as a result of reading whatever it is that they've seen about you, whether it's go and find your Instagram page, whether it's go and buy your album, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, you want them to do something. And that's it basically. So I'm going to whiz through these because I know we're late. So that's my winning pitch. Right, winning pitch formula. This is what I'm excited about. So like I said, I'll send this through. In order to have a winning pitch, this is something that I learned from somebody, one of my mentors, that we don't actually get told anywhere around PR. I don't know if you've been told this before, Claire, but it's called Chiefs, right? So in order to have a winning pitch, you want at least 3 of these things in a pitch before you put it out there. So you want controversy or celeb, you want humor, you want information, an event, finance, or shock, scandal, sex, or stats of some sort. So if you only have one of those things and you're trying to pitch the story, journalist is not going to be interested in it. If you have 2 of those things, it's kind of, yeah, all right, you know, so like there might be a celebrity and they, I don't know, they got tickled by their cat or something. It's like, it's not really that big a deal, right? But if you've got this celebrity who got tickled by their cat and it happened at the Oscars, you know, that becomes news, right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. So you want to have 3 of these things in for a story when you're pitching yourself. And Claire, obviously that's for you and your clients going forward as well, because it really is helpful. It's a really, I found it the most helpful way of actually finding out whether I've actually got a worthwhile pitch or not. So that is like literal gold dust there. Right. So 9 tips for winning the PR long game. I want you guys to take a holistic look at yourself for the best pitches. So what I mean by that is, if you are a coach, if you are a singer, if you are female, if you are pansexual, if you are like, look at every, like, I want you to literally dissect yourself into all of the different parts that you can be. Like, where do you come from? What is your background? How old are you? What gender are you? You know, what, you know, what's your sexual orientation, whatever it is, obviously, whatever it is that you fancy speaking about. But you want to dissect yourself into as many bits as possible, because then you've got different areas to kind of pitch yourself to, right? So you don't want to just be pitching yourself as a coach, or you don't want to be just pitching yourself as a publicist, or your clients as just a whatever. You want to be looking at the different things that make them a 360-degree, you know, human being that is of real interest. And that's what you want to be. You want to pick up things like that. So I've had stories put out about me about having a miscarriage, for instance, and the reason that I did that, not because I wanted to get any PR off the back of it, it was because I actually wanted to raise awareness of the fact that you could actually have a funeral for a child that was born before a certain time. And I remember at the time a couple of people were a bit like, oh, why would you put that out there? That's quite private. And I was like, because I didn't know. And I don't want other people to not know that that is not a possibility for them. So that's why I put that story out there. And I was proud of that. And I'm happy to stand by that, because it's something that doesn't embarrass me. I don't think it makes me look bad, even 10 years down the line. I don't think people are going to think, oh, bloody hell, Brenda, would you do that story about, you know, you're a publicist. Why did you do that story about miscarriage? Because it's part of my life, right? You know, it was part of my life. So I'm a human being. So again, I just want you guys to think of yourself holistically in that 360 way. The next point is full features and commentaries trump mentions always. So very often you'll see people get excited on Facebook about a mention, you know, 1 of 5, 1 of 10 people in a Forbes article. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. We've all been there. I've been there, right? But the full feature and the commentary is where it's at. When they're saying, hurricane, let me know, tell me about your thoughts on the music industry and what direction it's going in for 2023. That is going to be much more powerful than, can you tell me a little bit, like one line about what's going on in your business, right? Like, no one cares, right? Not that I'm saying no one cares. Obviously it's a great thing because it's a logo and it's okay, but you want to be focusing for those commentaries, those things that are going to be positioning you as an expert, as somebody, as the go-to person, as someone who actually knows their stuff. So I always try and look for those kind of features for my clients and also for myself. Make sure you are ready for fame, right? You guys are all pretty switched on, clued up and whatever. So if there's ever any issues around central nervous system regulation or whatever, just make sure you get some help around that. Is very important. It's obviously something that I cover when I'm working with clients anyway, but if you're doing it yourself, just make sure you're ready for whatever's going to come, because it will come in some way, shape or form, right? Same way as making money. I find that making loads and loads of money is pretty much the same as becoming famous. All of the same stuff comes up. You know, all of the same blockers, all of the self-sabotage. Oh, you're too busy. Oh, you know, you need to do this article, but you're not doing it. You know that you need to submit it by X time, but you're not doing it. All of that kind of stuff. Same stuff that you would do. You know, you're supposed to launch, but you're not launching. You've decided to have a fallout with your boyfriend instead, whatever, right? There's always something going on that's stopping you from doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So just, yeah, work on that. Sanitize your social media presence in advance. So this is just a thought on, there have been too many celebrities that have had tweets and stuff come up from like 3 or 4 years ago where they said some really stupid-ish and forgot about it. And their publicists didn't think to go and scrub their social media. So if there's anything out there for you or your clients where you've said some stuff that you might not be proud of, or it's no longer in alignment with who you are now, get rid of it, right? Because you don't want to be caught up on something that is no longer in alignment with who you are now, because you're a different person, right? And you certainly do. And the thing is, the higher you climb, is the more that someone's going to come after you. Like, look at Meghan, like poor old Meghan, right? You know, she's up there. They are not going to stop until they've pulled her down, like literally. And it happens to everybody, right? So obviously none of us are at that stage yet, but you don't even want it, because it can come for you, you know, as we've seen in the online space. People will come for you. I think there was a little bit of an element of with the recent takedown of, you know, certain coach, was a lot to do with how dare you keep announcing that you're making so much money. I think there was some jealousy there, right? I do honestly think that there was some jealousy there. So they were going to come for her at some point. And it will happen to the best of us. So aim to build long-term relationships with your journalists, not media lists. So obviously when you're pulling together, you know, information for your journalists, you don't just want to be building media lists, you do want to build long-term relationships with them. So you want to be like, hey, how you doing? You know, I thought I could help you with this. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with in the future. And that's how, even if they don't want what it is that you're putting out now, they will come back to you later. Because I get that all the time where people will come back to me and say, oh, Brenda, do you have someone who for what's such and such? Because I've been friendly with them, because it's not all just about, oh, can you just put my client in the press, please? Or can you just get me in the press, please? So that's always helpful. Don't be afraid to be sensationalist when you pitch. Some of my best titles have been really sensationalist ones. And I'm going to go on to a couple of those in a minute. Don't be afraid of tabloids. Have a photo album ready. If you're ever going for tabloids, you must have a load of photos. Tabloids will always ask for photos. If you look at any tabloid newspaper, they are all about the photos. It's not about the story, it's about the photos. So make sure you've got like 20 photos of yourself or selfies or whatever it is, right, that they can use to put out there. And then you have more of a chance of getting in than somebody else who's turned up with no pictures. You want to approach with the idea that your pitch is TV worthy. And the reason I say that is because the key to securing broadcast coverage, usually, particularly in the UK, it might be different where you are, is that TV follows news. So something lands in the Daily Mail, that's usually where somebody's going to turn up and be like, hey, I want to interview you about this, right? Because there are people scouring the internet for news to say, right, that's the person I want to speak to. And I'm sure you'll have seen some social media celebrities that will have gone viral for different things, like Jenna Kutcher when she was, you know, called out for being, how dare she be fat and have a skinny boyfriend, or, you know, fit boyfriend nonsense. But, you know, that started out in a newspaper, and then somebody obviously approached her after that was put out, and then she ended up on TV talking about it. And that tends to happen in quite a lot of places. Obviously, there are other ways to get into the media, but just be with the mindset that, right, if I'm putting this out there, this is something that could possibly end up, you know, take me onto TV if it's that level of exciting. And then the other thing that I want to say is leverage celebrity to elevate, oh, well, it says client, but it's you, right? Because I did this for some publicists. Leverage celebrity to elevate yourself by association. So if you've got any kind of celebrity association, hello? 5 minutes. If you've got any celebrity association whatsoever, whether you've any stories to link with celebrities in any way, shape or form, use it, because it works. It really does. Somebody was mentioning the other day on their live stream, and the thing is I know it's not on their website and they've never kind of mentioned it, but just in passing, they said that Bobby Moore, the last, who was the last England manager to win the World Cup, basically gave her a kiss on the cheek after winning the world, or something like that, right? And again, it's not like a huge thing, but that's like a bit of a big thing, and it's something that could be used as an element of a story, right? Of putting a story out there to talk about, you know, with the World Cup just happening. If she wanted to talk about what she was talking about, she could have found a way to weave that in because it was happening. And so I always want you guys to be thinking of times where there's things going on in the press, or things that you've done, anything celeb related, anything that may be a little bit different or off the wall that you can put yourselves forward for. So there's that. Next thing, sample pitch. So here I've got some sample pictures, so we'll whiz through these quickly because we're nearly at the end. Oh, sorry, Evgenia, that's quite controversial. Which one was quite controversial, lovely?
About the NHS being my enemy.
Oh, right, yeah. That's very controversial. No, I don't want you saying that.
Going after them in the media, in the press. Wow.
No. I was being really extra.
I better strengthen my nervous system for that.
No. But what you could do, and you could kind of a way of turning it around, basically, and it's something that I've kind of thought about, is that the NHS is under pressure. And I think the way that you could sell it is that the NHS is under pressure. We clearly don't have enough money to put into the NHS, right? They're striking because they're struggling and all the rest of it. So why aren't we making more of an effort to teach people how to look after themselves? Why aren't we making more of an effort to enable people to go down the path of finding ways to kind of heal themselves, or work with alternative suppliers rather than demonizing them? Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, and that's a great idea. And I one of my clients, my massage clients, is a nurse in St. Thomas Hospital, and she was telling me how they're supposedly psychologist there at the hospital, which is supposed to look after the staff. She said they aren't even in their office. when you go there to when somebody needs some support, she says we go and it's like it's just locked and that's it. And you know, because she's coming to me, we speak a lot about these things, and that's what she said, which is just wow, seriously.
Yeah, that and that's what I'm talking about. So this is what I'm saying. So there's an angle there, and you can actually, so even there you could say, obviously you'd keep her anonymous, but you say, I have someone who works, you know, I know a nurse who works in state, you know, and then they may say, is she willing to give, you know, give a quote or something to say what's going on? And then you add that to what it is that you're saying, and then there you've got a story. Do you see what I mean? You go back to the cheese formula and you have a story because you've got some information. You may even have some stats from her. And then you've got what it is that you do. And then you've got a way of saying, and you know, because you don't have to, again, it's like you don't attack the people, you just attack the system. So all you're doing is attacking the system, right? Which is, this doesn't work. People are dying, you know, we're in a position where people are doing this, that, and the other. Something needs to change. And why aren't we doing more to actually support people in actually, I've always thought this, why are we not doing more to support people in actually supporting themselves in health? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see that from you, Evgenia.
I think you will. Thank you very much.
Good. Yeah, awesome. Right. Sample pitch quickly. So I'm trying to think of the best way to go through this. Right. So the idea of this sample pitch is basically you would read somebody's article. So one of the most powerful ways to connect with a journalist is to actually read their stuff, right? You read whatever it is that they've already put out and who they've written about, and then you make reference to that previous work. So you might go onto Twitter, for instance, and you'll like it, and you might reshare what the article was because you liked it genuinely, and then you'll send them an email and say, hey, Jennifer, you know, I really loved your last article on things regarding the NHS. The impact it had on me was that, you know, it got me thinking about what's going on with me and my family and this, that, and the other. And as a result of that, I decided, so the action could be something as simple as I decided to share it with my mum and my sister. You know, and that's how you become human with a journalist, right? It's like, you're not just using them. It's like, this is what I've done. I really appreciate what it is that you've put out there. I've shared this with somebody else, or I've taken action as a direct result of what it is that you've put out there. And then I said, intro your client, but it's like introing yourself potentially with your credibility markers. And you say, I am a X, and I'm an expert in this area. And I specialize in helping people with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then you say, then you talk about the story or the link behind the topic. So, you know, I've noticed in the past, you know, it's been mentioned in the news in the past week that X, Y, and Z is going on with the NHS. And, you know, I personally know somebody who works for the NHS and can verify that this stuff is true or this stuff isn't true. And I would really love to, you know, talk about this or something. And then you talk about the results that you've got. So you say, you know, I've worked with so many people who have been able to avoid going to the NHS, which could save the NHS X amount of money each year because they're not having to go every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. And I've actually helped people do that. So I think that this is something that's worth talking about. And then you put in the links and then you say where else you featured, you know, if you have featured somewhere, I have featured before in X, or I have an audience of X amount who would share this article as if it was put out there. And then you talk about you obviously talk about your credibility markers, which is, you know, I've been working in this industry for X amount of time, or I've worked with, or I've been produced by, or I've worked with this producer, or whatever it is that you need to kind of say, look, I'm somebody. And then you do the links and the contact details for yourself. You know, here are my links, here are my details if you want to check out my social media to see more about what I do, or my website. And then you have a boilerplate, which is 100-word media bio at the bottom. And it's like, you know, Hurricane Titania is a da-da-da-da-da, and she does this and she does that, and she's amazing. And, you know, she lives in Iowa with her boyfriend or whatever, right? Like, is that like a little thing that you put on the bottom of it? So that's what you do basically. And that's what the sample pitch works like. But the magical bit there is the bit where you actually take the time to read the work of the person that you're actually trying to pitch to, because the biggest mistake that people make is not actually giving a toss about the person that they are writing to, or even knowing anything about the publication that they're trying to get into, which makes no sense, right? You would research everything. Same way you wouldn't work with a client without knowing what is going on with them is the same way you wouldn't pitch somewhere without actually knowing what's going on with that publication. Right, the next one is a pitch. It's a bit small to read, but is an example of a winning pitch and this one was for one of my clients. How a Gen X mum of three. How a Gen X3 mum of twins went from social housing, was able to ditch 40K of debt and scale to 30K months, I think I've got there. 3 million in just 4 years with a business model that other people don't know about. So then I've written this email out and I said, you know, again, I've gone in personally there. Dear Libby, I know that you've now made executive editor for personal finance. Huge congratulations, particularly on the Master Your Money and inside blah, 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 which is something I'm particularly passionate about. In fact, I recently wrote an article on what watching the Antiques Roadshow taught me about the racial wealth divide. So it's like, I see you. Do you see what I mean? I see you. It's been a while since I've pitched you anything because it's been a while since I've worked with a client who's made such a huge impact in the world. So again, I'm saying this is why you need to pay attention to this person. This person's quite amazing, right? Because the last time I pitched Libby was about 4 years ago. So she knows that I'm not turning up in her inbox to chat rubbish, basically. And then I obviously went on to talk about the client and blah, 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 blah. As a result of that, she then, As a result of that, she then actually forwarded me to somebody else in her team. What is going on? Sorry. She forwarded me to someone else in her team who actually, oh my God, sorry about this. She forwarded me to someone in her team to actually take it up. And then we actually ended up with a feature in Business Insider as a result. Bearing in mind, the same client who did this, she'd been trying for 4 years to get into Business Insider. I did this in one pitch. So that's what I'm saying. It's quite powerful when you do it right and you you actually get the right person on the right day and you use the right language and stuff. It makes it easier to do that. So that was that. Let me see. And then I've got a Daily Mail pitch here, and I think I've lost the screen, haven't I? You guys can't see the screen anymore. Right, where is it? Bloody hell. Are we all doing okay? I promise we're nearly at the end. Very, 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 very nearly at the end. I'm just trying to whiz through the last bits. So yeah, so this Daily Mail pitch was for another client who has, and I said re-feature for mental health. Yeah, mental illness is no barrier to success, basically. So that was the line that I went with on that one. And I had to copy the email again because the first person didn't respond to me. So I would always say, presume that the first pitch hasn't been received, always, and then at least pitch a second time because, you know, don't get offended or downhearted if somebody doesn't get back to you the first time. More often than not, these people actually get, like, I know I get at least 100 emails, 100 to 200 emails a day. Some of these journalists get like 300. So you've really got to stand out in some way, shape or form in order for them to want to pick you up. And some of them stuff they'll just send. So yes, I know, I'm coming, darling. So I've just said that I'm following up about my client who went from 6-figure VP to broke, suicidal, moved back with their parents, bipolar, on top of 2 types of ADD and anxiety and PTSD. So obviously this is a lot of trouble, a lot of struggles here, right? Just 10 months later, after spending the last £1,000 on working with a coach, they made their first $1 million in sales. So it is a rags to riches, but it's a bit more exciting than they were poor and now they're rich, right? You know, they've got a lot of challenges that they went through there, right? There's quite a lot to go through there. And then I talked about how the brain was wired differently and an MRI scan. So I went into some more details around it. I even included the article from the Elephant Journal that I was telling you guys about. And you know, how she's managed to help other people. And then that did result in an article, actually, which I will send you guys the link to these articles afterwards so you can see what it is. So yeah, and then there was another one, and then this one went viral, where someone just asked for a parenting expert to comment on a story about the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And they just said, I'm looking for a parenting expert. And I had somebody, and I put something out on Facebook, and I was like, is there anyone who's like a expert? You know, can we come together on this? Someone reached out to me. I charged them to work with me just for this one-off. And then this story actually went viral. So I went back and said, Happy New Year. I have someone. Can I get the questions and picks if you still need someone? So she came back and sent me the details. And then this person went viral and we ended up with about 45 pieces of coverage off this one piece of coverage in the Daily Mail. It was insane, simply because it was about the royal family. And the piece that she'd written was so brilliant that it resulted in, you know, everyone taking an interest in it, from like Marie Claire to whatever. As I said, again, I'll send the links of these stuff afterwards. I just wasn't sure how to put it up on this. So yeah, So we're on our final parting tips here. I want you guys to go big or go home. Like, what is the ultimate goal for you long beyond your 6 or 12-month contract, or, you know, 6 or 12-month plan for your PR? Where are you going in 5 or 10 years time in the future? You know, are you wanting to get verified? Are you wanting an honor? Are you wanting your own TV show? Are you wanting to win awards? What are you wanting? Like, think like that and then work backwards with your PR, or get someone to think like that and then work backwards with your PR, excuse me. You want human interest trumps facts. People are interested in people, people buy people. So, you know, make yourself the 4D hero of your own story or journey, and think laterally, like I spoke about. You know, I was put into an article talking about miscarriage, but, you know, someone's going to found that and said publicist Brenda Gabriel. When you Google publicist Brenda Gabriel, it still comes up because I'm a publicist, Brenda Gabriel. So, you know, again, it does add to my validation of who it is that I am, who I say I am. You want to build relationships that go beyond pitching them. Make it easy for the journalist or outlet to say yes. In essence, what you want to do is make sure that you make it as easy as possible to give them everything as much as you can up front, without having them want to come backwards and forwards. Because like I said, if they've got multiple emails, hundreds of emails, nobody wants to be going backwards and forwards to make sure you've got the stuff for them. So try and give them as much information as possible in a very succinct way, and even add pictures if you want to at the start to say, you know, this is who I am, or this is what I'm talking about, or whatever, so that it makes it easy for them to say yes. Make sure you put your phone number, your email address, your social media, whatever it is, so that they can connect with you and they're not having to chase up for that. Like I said, always presume they haven't seen the first pitch. And remember, what was that last bit? Remember, the fastest way from A to B is a straight line. No matter what you've been taught, you personally, have a unique way of getting what it is that you want. And the reason I say that is because for me, people always would tell me, you can't go straight from X to X. You can't go from, you have to take a stepping stone approach with PR. You can't go straight and apply for Business Insider, you know, without them doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, my dad taught me the fastest way from A to B is a straight line. So I want to know where we're going, and then I'm going to work backwards. And then if I can find a quickest way to get there, then I'm going to do that and do that. And it's worked for me so far, and it works for my clients, and it's amazing. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something in a certain way, or you can't connect with this person, or you can't get, you know, connect with this celebrity, or work with this producer, or whatever it is, right? Don't let anyone tell you anything. Just work on your brand of magic to get whatever it is that you want, how you manifest, whatever it is you call it, and go for it, basically. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Right, so next thing was questions. Any questions, lovely people?
Ask me again in a week's time.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like I got so much information that I'll definitely need to really watch it.
Yeah, this is wonderful. This is so energizing. I feel like.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm not very good at keeping to time. I apologize, but I just wanted to give you guys so much value from a place of obviously allowing you to be able to go and do stuff, but then also to give you lots of stuff to think about and see how I kind of think about PR, and why I'm not a big fan of what's kind of going on in the online space at the moment with regards to it, because it's so sort of one-dimensional. And actually, like, it's everything. Like, the PR is everything. It's not one-dimensional at all. So that's why I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of insight into the way that I kind of see things, and the way I see you guys, and why I'm so happy that I've got you people of all people on here, because it's amazing, because I got exactly the type of person that obviously I just kind of left it to God, right? But I've got exactly the type of people that I would have wanted to have coming through, and I'm really happy with that. So clearly it spoke to the right people, and that's what I'm happy about.
Thank you so much. This is so beautiful. I'm just like buzzing inside.
Yay! Well, I can't wait to talk to you more about your music and stuff. So like I said, we'll have a proper talk about that, because like I said, I've got bits on the side and ideas and all of that kind of stuff anyway, and someone who works with Spotify and all the rest of it. So we can properly go with that, and we can obviously talk about that. So I do hope you got value from this anyway, because it was more generic. Claire, are you still there? Is Claire gone? Claire Bear? I think she's gone. Right, Evgenia?
Yeah, I'm sure I have questions, but I don't know what they are, right?
It's
And
fine.
I feel super inspired, and I think this idea that you gave me there's something huge in there.
Merry Christmas.
Are you going? Bye. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of potential in this idea that you gave me, so thank you so much. I'm going to definitely think about it, see how to position it in a way that it just goes, you know, like on many levels. Like thank you so much, really. Like that's probably one of the biggest things that I got out of this, even though there's just a lot. And as I said, I did warn you that my bandwidth is not, I don't have much bandwidth. And I think after about 20-30 minutes, my brain started like, you know, it's like, okay, she's giving so much information, and I'm like, okay, this is like trying to catch it all, and I just realizing that I'm not catching it all, and I'm thinking, okay, thank God I have the recording, so I'm going to just go over it. I've made some notes, and yeah, it's been very. There are other things that inspired me a lot, and I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 pages of notes.
Oh wow! Okay, I'm going to stop recording here though, and yeah.